Where's our music?
Oh wait, it's dramatic piano. It's not what I
Dramatic
intended.
piano. Dun, 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 dun.
I thought I clicked our intro music, but I guess we're getting dramatic piano this time.
All right. Sad,
Well,
somber song for the state of American affairs.
it's the right tone. Well, welcome to Oh Brother News. I'm Gabe,
I'm James,
and we're brothers.
and this
Okay,
was America.
we're not that sad yet.
Sad music.
After we talk about all of these things. Okay, so long list of stuff to get to this week. Let's get right to it. I guess like a brief note. So this is episode 8, but there is an episode 7, but we're not going to publish it because it ended up being a video test. We're gonna work our way towards video, but we're not there yet. So just didn't meet the quality bars. So yeah, I'm just gonna leave that one in the archive. Okay. Right. So on the good news side, Bernie's blowing up. He's going on tour. Getting a lot of support, people showing up in red states. I'll talk about that for a little bit. Not expired, but just no immunity in the Trump election interference case. We'll touch on that briefly. Mitch McConnell is retiring. Might talk about some of the notably shitty things he's done, accomplished, and also about how we need Democrats like him, vicious and effective. Doge,
Bullshit.
publishing just total bullshit. All their savings are lies. We'll get into some details on that. House passing a spending bill that's gonna
More good
wreck
wrecking ball.
SNAP and Medicaid, literally stealing from the poor to give to the rich, including a $4 trillion increase to the debt ceiling and making $4.7 trillion worth of Trump tax cuts continuing. And the people in the Senate are like, oh, we're not going to do that because we won't cut Medicaid. LOL.
And we want those tax cuts to be permanent forever.
Yeah, and
the rich people
and they're like, this
always
doesn't
need to
go
have
far
this.
enough. Has
This
to be
doesn't go-
permanent.
Yeah.
So, okay, that'll be a fun topic.
Yeah.
There's Trump going full Russian stooge.
He already
all
was.
the stuff with Ukraine. I guess, yeah. He knows the taste of Putin's balls.
Yep.
But yeah, it was fun watching Macron correct him, like putting his hand on him like a little stupid baby, and no, you're just full of shit.
Yeah.
Correction. We'll have a link to that video. Republican town halls. People are pissed. Republicans are going to Republican congressmen's town halls and throwing fits. Of course, the Trump, the president's leadership response is, well, if you're going to do a town hall, then you should probably vet which constituents you allow to attend, so you only get people who aren't going to be upset, so it won't go viral when they're like,
Man.
what the fuck actually represent us. There was a brief moment of maybe the tide is turning and things are going well, with the combination of the town halls and videos circulating of Trump supporters burning their Trump 2024 flags as they are realizing that not getting what they thought they were voting for. We have his approval poll numbers kind of a little bit less than where he was last time when he was president. Let's talk about that. There's basically a breaking story about SpaceX canceling an FAA contract with Verizon to upgrade the fiber infrastructure to more modern standards, including cybersecurity and basically like a guarantee that like the system never goes down. And Elon Musk is swooping in after firing people in the FAA and the inspectors general, and saying, "Oh, well, look at all the planes falling out of the sky. Clearly, this deal with Verizon and a few other telecom companies to upgrade this infrastructure, this definitely won't work. It's their fault that it's broken now, even though that contract is for them to upgrade them to the new standard in the future."
It has a good spin on "you break it, you buy it." You break it on purpose, and then you can buy it. Whatever.
Yeah. But anyways, like it's a fiber thing. SpaceX does satellites. Satellite wouldn't work because it's not slow. It's too slow, and it's not like completely uninterruptible and secure. And then there's an update on the Ukraine mineral deal. So,
Deal.
where do you want to start?
You can start whatever, man. You're a Bernie bro. You can start with your Bernie.
Okay.
Get your
Yeah. So like, I started off the week like feeling really good because I kept seeing positive things. You know, it was like Republicans are mad at them, and they're happy with Bernie. So like, Bernie's been going on tour, and like selling out, not selling out, but just like filling up large places. Like he had a, I don't remember what state it was in, but he had a speech scheduled in a red state at a union hall, and then so many people signed up to come that they had to switch the venue from a union hall to like a much larger venue, and then they still had so much overflow that the overflow couldn't have fit like even a portion of them in the original venue. So, and this is like a deeply red state. I wish I knew which one, but the thing that I
Nebraska.
saw,
Was it Nebraska?
I don't know. It was a, I could pull up the video and try to like skim through it and find it, but I'll have the link in there so you guys can check it out for yourself. But
Friday evening, it was 3,400 people in Nebraska.
I think it was that one.
Okay.
I think it was that one. But I know he's been going around a bunch of places, and part of the interesting thing with that is like if you in that video the guy was mentioning that back in 2019 when Bernie was in the primaries, there's this map of like who had the most small donations across the country, and it lists out like all of the top Democratic candidates. And the whole map, like Bernie is in the color blue, and the whole map is just blue. Like Bernie has this completely separate popularity from the Democrats because he's a populist, you know, because he's an independent. He caucuses with the Democrats, but he's actually an independent. He's a populist, and he's pushed for a whole bunch of policies that are really popular. It kind of goes back to the thing from a few weeks ago. We were talking about the people who voted for AOC and Trump on the same ticket. You know,
But
like
again,
Bernie has that same kind of appeal. Like I still think that like the Democrats fucked themselves in 2016 by ousting Bernie and going with Hillary. I think Bernie would have beat Trump because he's like selling the same thing. Like, you know, it's rich versus poor and the rich are winning. They're fucking you when you just take the money and redistribute it and that'll be better for everyone. That's Bernie's whole deal, you know, except he's actually going to do it and not just like say that he's doing it as he just like, you know, guts Medicaid and Social Security so that he can make a $4 trillion tax cut that only really benefits people who make more than $400K a year, which is what Trump is doing. So yeah, Bernie's popular.
yeah, but he's not going to run for president again. He already said it, and and like Trump, his popularity doesn't extend to the party that tries to do the things that he likes. So you know, I
Yeah.
like it, but I'm not. I like it. It's cool. Yay. Get people out there thinking, hey, these are good ideas, even if maybe they're not from the traditional blue places. I don't think it translates to the way they vote, sadly enough, though. But anything can help.
I mean,
anti oligarchy tour.
there is a translation like the I feel like people are voting for like those populist policies. Like they were just believing Trump when he, you know, spoke to them. You know, if you paid much attention to anything outside of like, you know, the conservative media bubble that's just like sucking his dick all the time, you would have known how full of shit he was. But if that's all you saw, then you were thinking like, yeah, I want populism. I want take money from the rich and give it to the poor. I want to like not have all these bloated government contracts. And like honestly, like those are good things. I would love for there to be fewer bloated government contracts and to have our spending be more efficient. But the place to go and find that efficiency is the Department of Defense, where sometimes we pay 800 fucking dollars for a toilet seat, not, you know, which poor person
Military
is getting
grade.
Medicaid.
Hey, military grade. Military grade. That's why you're paying for it. Military
Military,
grade.
yes, yes,
Have you
the
ever gone on
military
Amazon?
grade.
You go to Amazon and you can find a phone case, or you can find a military grade phone case for $15 more. See, military grade. Anyway,
Military. That's not even a
it's
grade. It's
like
this.
those
It's like
flashlights. Have you seen those tactical flashlights? Military grade flashlight. Hey,
I got
popcorn.
one of the, I got one of those. You remember? You
Anyway,
remember? You remember? It was actually from. Okay, so I want to like not use a name, but like describe to you the person because you know the same person. It was
and food.
someone who was the head of a department that we both worked for. Um, and uh they were friends with the owner rather famously.
Okay.
They're still the head of your department. If you
Okay.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, for Christmas one year, he gave everybody like a little present, and like I got like a little like handheld tactical flashlight. It's still my favorite flashlight,
Yeah,
but it
I
has
got
all
this.
this like metal on it. So like if I'm holding it in my hand and
I
I
got
like
this
punch you in the
Rayovac
face
one.
with it, it's gonna hurt you.
I got this Rayovac one that is just as bright. It cost me like $20.
Uh huh.
It's nice and heavy. It's a little bit long. It's great, man. But it's not. I don't know if it's military grade. I don't know if it's tactical.
I don't know if it's
Whatever.
military grade. Yeah.
Or,
Does
but
it have a
anyway, we
Does it
can
have
talk
a
about the.
clip?
It does not have a clip. I don't put it on my
Can't put it on your
hunting
belt.
gear or something. My I don't. Whatever. Uh, I think it's a good segue into the absolutely awful budget bill that they're going to try and do through reconciliation.
Oh
Um,
Jesus Christ! Yeah.
I mean, honestly, that's the biggest news of the week is the fucking awful thing that passed in the House, 217 to 215. And
Well,
I
that's
mean,
all the majority they have.
yeah, no, that's what it passed. Well, I thought, whatever. 217, 215 is what it passed on. Has to go to the Senate. And among other things, they, like we were talking before here, it's, they're not going to cut $1 trillion from Medicaid, folks. They're just going to tell the people who run Medicaid that they got to cut $1 trillion somewhere.
Well, it's the committee of I can't remember. It's like agriculture and something else. But the committee on agriculture, they told them that they have to cut their budget
Yeah.
by $880 billion
Well, that
dollars.
was energy. That was energy department, 880 billion.
Am I not thinking of? I thought that
That,
this was the
that was for the
Medicaid one.
energy department, 880 billion.
No, I thought it was I thought the committee was energy and agriculture. It was 880
Yeah,
billion,
that was
and
energy and agriculture. That's not the one for Medicaid. That was for the energy department. Yes, they got to cut 800 something $1 billion. Medicaid also has to cut like $1 trillion or something like that. That was both.
huh. Then I'm
And that is in
thinking of the wrong
part to
thing.
make sure they can give the $4.7 trillion tax cut for the rich and the what is it, $180 billion increase in defense spending. See, they need more of those tactical flashlights.
No, it's the House Committee on Energy and Commerce. That's who handles Medicaid. Energy and Commerce. So that's the committee that has to cut 880 billion, and that committee does. I don't know. I saw like a Brian Tyler cut
Okay,
one
that
on
was
this.
880 billion. Okay, for that one,
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. I saw so
and then
like
it's
that
still
that
okay. Then
does
it still needs,
Medicaid, but it doesn't do.
and then it's still 600 billion short for the rest of the cuts they have to do too. Yeah, so there's still another $600 billion in cuts they have to do on top of
Yeah,
that.
so like there's no like the other stuff that isn't Medicaid that committee funds
Mm-hmm.
um isn't isn't enough by itself to
Mm-hmm.
be 880 billion. So they have to cut Medicaid. So this is the way that they're selling their bullshit. They're like, "Oh, we're not cutting Medicaid. We're just cutting the budget for the House Committee on Energy and Commerce." LOL. 'Cause you're fucking dumb, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Either way, yeah, they want to cut that. Give another 4.7 trillion for the rich. Increase the Defense Department's budget, which by
Of
itself I
course.
wouldn't give a shit for. I mean, honestly, they do need to spend. They need to spend smarter. I mean, we got to get ready. If nothing else but the Russia-Ukraine war has taught us is that the U.S. is not ready for a modern war. You know,
I don't know about that because the so like
we need
the
to
reason
run.
that Ukraine got into the situation that they're in is because of all the things that they don't have. Okay, they don't have a big navy. They don't have aircraft carriers. They don't have a large air force. They don't have all the sorts of surface to air missile batteries that you would use to defend your skies from the other people.
But
They
you know who
don't have
did?
enough. They don't have enough ammunition or enough stuff to defend against the the drones and missile attacks. They don't have the long range missiles with the types of warheads. Even now, like we haven't given them the types. We give them like
Yeah.
they like
Yeah.
scatter and like take out a bunch of troops warheads. We don't give them the like big explosions or like the bunker busters so they can go and like take out the bridge to Crimea, for example, which is what they wanted the missiles for to begin with, or to like hit into Russia to like hit a weapons facility or hit like a gas or an oil refining facility. So they're hitting those with little drones and all this other stuff we could talk about, but they lack all of those things.
But no, who doesn't?
So what they ended up in was like trench warfare. So
Well,
if it was America, America would have come in, we would have blitzed them like we did with Iraq. We would have just bombarded them from naval ships, from
mm,
B-52s, from AC-130s. We would have just like lit them the fuck up for like a week. And then after they've been pounded by all of our, millions, billions of dollars worth of bombs, then we would start to come in, and we would come in covered by our air force so that we can push in. And like this shit with the drones isn't going to work against like a real air force or a real navy. Like I'm sure it would be a
actually, no,
difficult
no,
thing
no.
to deal with.
I think you're taking away the wrong message from it.
Okay.
It is. I think it's more of an example of Russia has all the planes. They have the helicopters. They have the long range missiles. They have all that stuff. They have the big navy. They had the big stuff. They have all that. Ukraine didn't. Right? Ukraine is holding them back and beating them up pretty bad and killing tons of them, and they're not making any gains. And they're actually now having some counterattacks and having a lot of success in the last month or so. Right? Without all that shit.
Because the
So
Russian
it's more
military
akin to.
strategy is
So in
like
other words,
we will throw more
so
bodies at
no,
your guns than you have bullets to shoot
yeah,
them with.
but it's more akin to like, hey, this is teaching the whole world. Hey, when you have a overwhelming military that has 500 million, $2 billion ships and things like that out there, hey, you don't need a bigger destroyer. You need to just spend, a couple $100,000 and get a shitload of drones, and you can take out their navy. It's teaching every single country that, hey, these big bad military ships, they're not that tough. They go out there with 8 of them in a strike group, or 8 or 9 ships in a strike group, and check it out. They'll stay over there on the shore, and you can just run little sea baby drones at them all day long.
Mm,
And so it makes these big ships that we have not nearly as effective. And the drones or anything else. I mean, it is the way it's going now. You know what I mean? We need to invest in that shit, not just hey an even bigger destroyer than the biggest ones we have. You know what I mean? Because I mean, one destroyer costs as much as like the entire drone army that they have in Ukraine. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So that's where they need to spend money more. I mean, but so I'm fine with them spending more money on defense, but shit, man.
Well, there are a whole bunch of drone startups
Mm-hmm.
in America. But the thing is, like, America, like, a lot of these startups are making really complicated, really expensive drones. And I
Which
think a
is
big
stupid.
part of what's been an advantage for Ukraine in terms of drones, and even like what's been useful to Russia in terms of drones, has been that they just make a shitload of cheap ones.
Oh yeah, exactly.
You're spending a couple $100 from China and, strap on some C4 and you drive that into a tank. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's way easier to build 5 drones than it is to build one tank,
Oh yeah.
and much cheaper.
Oh yeah.
So
So, but yeah, the only hopeful thing about this, there's nothing really hopeful about it, man. It's fucking it's a terrible, terrible budget resolution, and with reconciliation, they can pass it with one vote majority. They can pass it with a 51-50 vote,
mhm.
and yeah, I mean, it's abysmal, Hey,
I think we should
in a
let
way
them.
though, like
Let
Gabe said a
them.
few weeks ago, let them get what they want, man. Hey, they voted for these people. Let's cut that Medicaid. And people all over the country have already been seeing things with like, we got a friend, one of the people on my team who I work with, already had to take their mom who can barely talk, who cannot move on her own, right? They did take her out of the hospital and has to live in their living room and in a bed, and so they can lift her up and clean her and do everything else, because of all these freezes that the government's been doing.
It's
Medicaid money
horrible.
not being available, them having to send everybody home, cutting off people. And that's not funny. The thing about it is, like, these Republicans who all support Trump, like 90% support for Trump, they don't believe that's happening. We actually heard somebody say this yesterday when they were talking about, somebody else was talking about their situation where they lost their health coverage thing like that, because they couldn't go anymore because the money was frozen by Trump, for 3 months.
Hmm.
And they're like, somebody else said, Trump wouldn't do that. Oh, you must have not filed your paperwork or something right. He wouldn't do that. It's like, no, it's the funding was frozen.
But
You
it's
know,
just it
you
hasn't
just
hurt
don't believe
enough
it.
yet.
You just
That's
don't
all that
believe
means.
it. Exactly. So
Like that's what
it's
I'm
going
saying.
to end
Like
up hurting them
let
all.
them catch the car. Let the dog catch the
Yep.
car, so the dog can get run the fuck over.
Yeah.
And then when it's like a rotting corpse in the street, then we'll see if they still want to vote for it.
But uh, yeah, horrible, horrible, horrible bill though. So Medicaid's gone, going to be gone.
You
Social
know,
Security's next.
let's just like give this like a positive spin, okay? Like this is like a just like a thought exercise of like what could the good side of this be? And like, you know, Medicaid, for all the good that it does, it is this sort of like band-aid on the problem of like
Not
us
having
needing
universal
to
health
have
care.
single payer healthcare, us needing to have a government option, us needing to rein in the United Health CEO making 40 fucking $1 million a year, which is so offensive that when he gets shot in the fucking back, walking into a meeting, people fucking cheer, right? Like that indicates the system is fucked. So maybe we should rip the band-aids off of the fucked thing and let it be this gaping festering wound that fucking hurts everyone, because if it doesn't hurt enough, you're not going to take the time to figure it out. Like there's all these
Hmm.
people who are like, "Oh, I wanted to get rid of Obamacare, not the ACA." Why do they give it two names? Like, oh, dummy, they give it two names because they want to associate it with Obamacare so they can say it's a bad thing so you don't
Yeah, but
understand
when
the
you
good
say,
thing that you actually like came from Obama.
well, it sounds good in theory at an academic level and in a, Schadenfreude kind of way. It sounds good, right? Oh, let everybody do this, let everybody suffer. But I mean, think about who is suffering when you do this. It's all the poor people. It's everything like that. It's like, think of it. Think of Brazil when they were getting ready for their Olympics in the 80s. What did they do? They went and they sent death squads in there and they murdered the shit out of all of the homeless population. They went through Rio de Janeiro and they killed them all. Right?
Jesus.
That's how they dealt with it. And you know what? They didn't have a problem with homelessness afterwards. They just killed them all. Problem solved, right? Same thing. Hey, you cut off all the stuff, make everybody suffer. Make Okay, cool. You end up killing off a bunch of poor people, and you make. I mean, is that really the best way to do it? I don't think so. But I mean, there's some truth to it. If the pain is wide and deep enough, maybe that'll make people support something better.
Maybe there would finally be enough of
But at the
like
same time,
a
man,
public sentiment
but
for
look at the South.
real
Look at
solution.
the only thing that contradicts that though is look at the South. Look at Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, Kentucky, South Carolina. Look at all those states, Texas. All these states have been rock red, like ruby red for all these years. They're the poorest fucking states in the country. They have the absolute worst education systems, the worst health care, lowest wages. They are the absolute just fucking shitter. They're the toilet. They're the toilet of America, right? They're the toilet bowl of America, right? In every way, and they keep going red. So, I mean, it hasn't hurt them there. They keep voting Republican.
The beatings will continue until
Exactly. They're like,
morale
those states
improves.
down there, man. There's no kind of social welfare things like that for people. It's just they just don't get it. They don't get any kind of things like that, and they're just, government's not taking my money. You know what I mean? And meanwhile, they're collecting freaking welfare and shit, and they're getting Medicaid and stuff like that. They just don't realize it. So I don't know.
Well, you gotta. That's what I'm saying. Like, let it hurt. Like,
Maybe.
let them ruin the lives of poor people. It's like I'm not a poor people. So, personally,
I,
it's not gonna take money directly out of my pocket, and it will put pain into the lives of people who are making decisions that are putting pain into my life. So yeah, let's share it around.
Yeah.
It's time to you fucked around, and now it's time to find out.
Yeah. So, all right. Buckle up, America. Rich
Yeah,
people need more tax breaks, man.
but like it is truly insane the things that they're pitching. Like they're really just like we're gonna like none of the things that they've talked about
What
cutting
they
give them enough money because they want to raise the debt ceiling by $4 trillion, and they want to extend the tax cuts that was it for 10 how what was it the
in the
original
house and
the
the GOP budget in
duration of the
the
tax
House was
cuts.
extending it for 5 years, right? It was going to extend it over 10 years, which was going to add another 20 trillion to the debt over 10 years. Just the tax cuts. Just the tax cuts. Yeah, like Thomas Massey, he was the one Republican voting against it. He goes,
Oh,
GOP budget extends the 5-year tax holiday we've been enjoying, but because it doesn't cut spending much, it increases the deficit by $300 billion a year. Compared to letting the tax cuts expire over 10 years, this budget will add $20 trillion to the debt.
like I just don't understand like
It's
how
not
is it
about
there's
spending.
not enough like take money away from like
They
from
don't.
government to pay for the for
They
fifty
don't
trillion
care.
dollars. Like you
Here's the
can't.
thing,
The
though. Here's
only
the thing.
way to pay for it ever, the only way is to take more money from the rich people.
That's a non-starter. Well, no, you can also take more money from all of the non-rich people. Come on, Gabe. Jesus.
No, they don't have that much money.
If you raise taxes, well, they're not. Well, here they're raising taxes in other ways. That's how they're doing it. Here's what they want to do. It's like in Indiana. Oh my God, Indiana. We're gonna have all toll roads here. Indiana House, I think, is the one who already passed it. It's probably going to pass in their Senate or whatever. But yeah, all the highways, everything in Indiana, it's going to be all toll roads now to make people pay for everything. It's a tax. It's a tax. They don't want to call it a tax, but it's what it is. It's a tax. You know,
It's like speed cameras,
yeah.
red
Instead
light
of paying a
cameras.
couple cents on the dollar, out of your paycheck, instead you can spend $10 every time you drive. There you go.
God,
Ah,
that that cannot. I cannot see that going well.
I'm not going to, but it's you know,
Like they're trying to squeeze people from every direction, and at some point they're going to be so squeezed that like everyone's going to be like, well, now I'm homeless. Now I can't buy eggs because they're $30 a dozen. Like I can't buy Starbucks anymore because it's $18 for a fucking tall. Like, at some point, when it's like, Trump raised my tax. He took away the child tax credit and he raised my taxes, and he took away my Medicaid, and he took away my this, and and the roads are all toll roads. Like at some point, the people are just going to be like, well, okay, so my options are debtor's prison or die. I guess I'll just go and like start killing rich people then, because fuck it. Like there's nothing else. You've taken everything. There's no way
mhm.
to like dig. The hole is so deep and so dark that there's no fucking point in trying to like pretend that it's not. Like, and now I'm just gonna go out and fucking kill people. Like we're just gonna revert back to like blood in the streets until the people are less poor and broken and stolen from. This is how it always goes. All throughout history, this is how it always goes. The wealth inequality gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then the people are like, oh, fucking enough of this bullshit, and they start killing people, and then it evens out a little bit. That's how every time. It's the same thing all through history. It happens. That's what's going to happen
Well,
unless they stop squeezing them. Like there
well,
is a limit.
in that case, remember we were just saying like, hey, you know what? It's not going to affect me as much. I'm okay. Yeah, you might want to watch out, Gabe.
I mean, in that scenario, we all have to watch out.
Yeah,
Like I'm no millionaire, so I'm not.
yeah,
I'm not going to be at the top of anyone's list.
yeah. But yeah, it's just well. The bright side is, like you said, polling. It doesn't really matter because although here's the thing, people say, hey, he's not going to leave office. He's not going to leave office. And what did he try to not do? He tried not to leave office, right? And every time that Trump said he will or won't do something, he never does that. The things he jokes about, like taking over Greenland or taking over this, those are things you really have to worry about because those are things he might actually do, and how they keep
Hmm.
joking and joking and joking about a third term, joking about a third term. Hey, maybe I'll stay here. Maybe I'll just stay president forever. Isn't that funny?
The
I'm talking
king,
about staying president forever. And then he put out a tweet of himself this last week here with himself with a crown on it, as
Hmm.
a king of America.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. All hail
you
the
know.
king,
So
or long live the king. It said, right?
yeah, long live the king. Yes, and had him. Yeah. So I mean, as of right now, though, his polling is down to 42%. So if he was going to run for re-election right now with his polls, it doesn't look to be good. Although the sad part is, and this is kind of funny, it says the support is highly partisan. This is like in Gallup's poll. It shows the gap between Democrats who approve of Trump and the Republicans who approve of Trump. Right? It's a gap of 89% points. It's like the most polarized ever in history of Gallup for any president.
Wow.
That's the 89% gap between where the Democrats are and Republicans are. But there's a bunch of different polls, but I saw polling at 42, 44% approval. 51% of Americans are thinking what Gabe thinks, that America is facing a constitutional crisis, which I think is obvious if anybody actually watches the news. And 57% of Americans say Trump has exceeded his authority since taking office. No shit.
No shit.
Yeah. Uh, God. Oh, and where is this at? Where is this at? Oh, in Florida, Palm Beach. Florida House Bill 697. They want to rename um, roadways in Florida after Trump, a sitting president. Which, by the way, I don't think it's ever happened. I don't think they ever name them after, sitting
Like,
presidents.
it's going
But
to be like Trump Avenue.
President Donald J. Trump Boulevard.
Okay, actually, I just remembered something. I didn't put this on the list, but
Uh,
like, I saw this on, God,
President
what's it
Donald
called?
J. Trump.
It's called it's called LBC. Do you ever watch LBC? It's like a British news podcast.
No, I was thinking Long Beach, California.
Oh yeah, no, it's not, totally very opposite direction. But
Summertime
it's
and living's easy.
yeah, it's called LBC. It's like a radio show, but I always watch it on, I see it on YouTube. They were talking about a video that Trump put out on social media very recently, and it is like he played a little bit of like the song, and it's like Gaza's gonna be so great for everyone. Like Trump is gonna make Gaza blah blah blah, and then like it has this like AI generated video that is just completely unhinged. There's this like elongated Elon Musk just like lurking around all the time, and there's these like belly dancers in like scantily clad belly dancers, but they have beards, and there's like little children that are supposed to be in Gaza, but like too many buildings are standing, so it can't be Gaza because no buildings are standing in Gaza. And they're like the kids like holding a golden balloon. That's like a balloon of Trump's head, and like the music is completely unhinged. Like I gotta find a link to show you this, but it's like it is crazy the most crazy thing I've ever heard of in like a political thing. And that's how he was describing it. It just sounds completely ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but Saturday. That's tomorrow, right? Or 2 days from now. It's Friday, Saturday, and 2 days from now, the what is it? The current ceasefire deal, whatever, is ended, right?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay, wait,
yeah,
wait,
it
wait. Hold
expires
on,
on
hold on.
Saturday.
I found it. You gotta watch this.
Okay, sorry, you're
You
making sure.
gotta. I'm gonna put it here. I'll put it in the. Like, you gotta watch it and react to it.
Not on video.
It's in the. It's in the chat. I know it would be better with video. You're right, but it's just. It's amazing. He posted it on Truth Social. It's 30
Oh
second
god.
video. It'll be in the show notes.
Oh my god,
Uh-huh.
an AI Elon and what the? Oh my
Like the
god,
music of
he
it.
tweeted this.
Yeah, that's the link I sent you. Is to
That
his
was a
True
hot
Social post.
Trump Gaza.
No more tunnels, no more fear. Trump Gaza is finally here. It's just there's like kids running out of a cave onto the beach with like the Gaza
Oh
skyscrapers off
hey,
in the distance. It's
I
just
gotta. I can use snipping tool, and you can see on one of these little images if you're of Trump groping this chick.
why am I not surprised?
Where's our Where's
There's like a
our zig
golden,
test?
there's like a 1,000 foot tall golden Trump statue where
Oh,
he's like, also he's like fit in the statue, like he's not fat, he's just like super trim.
oh god, here I have to put it in our Discord because I can't paste this into our chat on.
Yes, I'm putting it into the Discord. What we should do is actually we should probably we're not gonna do this week, but we're gonna. Oh, I was gonna say grabbing her arm. I don't know if that's an AI hands thing, but we should open up our Discord to all of our one fans.
Hey
I'll
fan,
just have to make some rules for new people.
we should start and say you know how people would say like hey fam, like family. No, we should say hey
Hmm.
fan,
Hey fan.
hey fan. Anyway, yeah,
Yeah, it's good. I
it's a
like it.
slow week though, man. It's a slow week this week, so
I don't know. I don't feel like there are slow weeks anymore. Okay,
eh.
what else do we got? What else do we got? There's definitely
Let's see. You had town hall stuff. FAA. Did we already talk? We didn't talk about that,
nope.
did you?
We did. We just talked about it
Yeah, we
before.
said
We
we were
didn't
going to
talk
hit
about it on
on
there yet.
it. I think that's a good one. I mean, because here, one of the things they were talking about before, when they're talking about the doge eating shit, right, and the House spending bill not really cutting any spending, right, and that's a good segue into as Doge is going in and looking at these government contracts and seeing where the money's going and finding that A, they haven't saved anything really hardly. B, they can only tout savings of things they've illegally stopped payments on. That's being fought in court and a lot of things being overturned. So they're not actually saving anything. They're just fucking with people by turning off the payment for a little bit. You know what I mean? But in one of these things, FAA, Elon Musk, a big fan of the FAA because they were going after him and investigating him before. Deciding that, and I don't know where he got the authority to do this, start sending Starlink terminals to places to do testing as of a couple of days ago. And now that they started doing whatever testing he thinks he's doing, they want to sick the FAA on there, and they're like threatening basically to cut off Verizon's deal that they did a couple of years ago. It was I think a 10, we read it earlier, like a 10 or 15
Is
year
it?
deal
Yeah.
with it was like Verizon, Saab, and some other company, right? That was
Hmm.
to go through and really upgrade everything, all the infrastructure of the FAA, right? And Elon Musk thinks, hey, we can just fire everybody, and how about I just take that shit over? So yeah, I don't know if you want to how you want to start on it, but uh, yeah,
Yeah. So like the base of this deal is so there'll be a link to telecoms.com. So I'm going to read a little bit from it. But so this is from April 3rd of 2023. Verizon bags $2 billion FAA deal. U.S. operator Verizon secured a lucrative deal to overhaul the FAA's networks. It's meant to be a 15-year contract, more than $2 billion. You'll see them design, build, and operate a new communications platform that can support all the agency's mission-critical applications. That includes providing air traffic management (ATM) to the 45,000 flights carrying 2.9 million passengers across the 29 million square miles that make up the U.S. national airspace system, which is another way of saying it's a pretty big deal.
yeah,
Yeah, and so to your point, Verizon can't do all this by itself, so it's drafted Saab's Air Traffic Management Division and Mission Critical Comm Specialists, Frequentis, what a
yeah,
name,
yeah,
Frequentis, to help. Um, so basically, yeah, it's like a dog pile of telecoms companies that they're going to redo the infrastructure and then uh, design, build, and manage it for them over
yeah,
15 years. And a key part of this is that these are like to the point that it was making, right? It's 45,000 flights, it's 29 million passengers, 29 million square miles. So it is a big mission.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And
And
also, I wanted to chime in and say, also, Verizon is not the one running it right now. They're working, right, and they're 2 years into the deal to modernize all the infrastructure and everything else and their systems and everything else, right? They're not, it's not like Verizon Wireless is, the communication system of the FAA. They're not even doing that right now. They're going through and building everything.
yeah.
So when Musk says the Verizon communication system to air traffic control is breaking down rapidly, that doesn't exist. There is no Verizon communication system to air traffic. It's not breaking down, and it's not a Verizon's not the one running it right now.
Mhm.
So that's stupid. And he says this is putting air traffic safety at serious risk. Remember they had to try to walk back the statements from Trump and everyone when they're talking about how DEI was making the skies so unsafe. Now they're saying that the infrastructure is so unsafe, it's breaking down. Really, they're just firing everybody, and the people are overworked. But
Exactly.
they need new
Now it's
equipment. They need new equipment. They need new stuff. They need better stuff. But you know,
and crucially the equipment, like
is
it
being built.
has to be very reliable, it has to
Yeah.
be very fast. And that's why
Mm-hmm.
you can't have it be wireless. So like some places, like there will be rural. I always struggle with that word.
Rural.
Rural places. Well, you live in one, so you can say it. There'll be rural places where um, there's no infrastructure for fiber optics, and so they'll use satellite. But everywhere else, satellite is just like a backup, right?
Yeah.
And the places where they use it, they're always going off of hardline because they need it to be reliable. Because if it goes down, like then they can't see the planes in the air. They can't talk to the planes in the air, and that's going to lead to a lot of big problems because they're going to run out of fuel. They're going to crash, and they're going to not where they're going. So, like the system is designed to um, have the different air traffic controls. Like the one that's like just at the airport, the one that's within 2 miles of the airport, and the one that's all the space in between 2 miles out from airports. It's designed to interact, follow the planes across all of those and trade them off to the different towers. And so if it goes down even for a little bit, it's really dangerous and
Yeah.
likely also very expensive. So
And there's other things to just think about too. Long term stuff. The reason why Starlink satellites work better than your traditional like what are the other big ones like those HughesNet things or whatever Viasat, these other systems,
mhm,
satellite internet, because they're really really low orbit. Their satellites are really low orbit satellites,
mhm,
and that is so bad. I mean, Jesus Christ. Okay, I'm trying to say it in layman's terms. In layman's terms, it's like imagine the landfill, right? Instead of being a landfill buried underground, you just took it all up and spread all that trash out right around the planet, right? And make it all metal stuff like low orbits, right? When you have a
mhm,
lot of satellites up there, they have rapidly decaying orbits, right? The
mhm,
orbit decays faster than expected, right? More and more satellites would be needed. You need a lot more satellites to be able to do everything that SpaceX does, plus everything in the FAA, all the air traffic control. You're going to need a lot more satellites up there. More satellites, more risks of collision, more risks of things falling. Breaking. There's so much debris in space right now. People don't even think about that.
mhm.
When we launch things into space, it doesn't go away. It's like people worry about fucking plastic and shit here. We're like, oh, this takes 1,000 years to go away, right? Yeah, but if something's in orbit around your planet, it's there potentially for
And
fuck millions of years.
and
You know,
as it with a lot of this stuff, like
traps you in.
when it crashes into itself, right?
It makes
Okay,
more
it makes a bunch of tiny pieces. So
particles. Yes.
you have these little pieces of screw and metal and
Yeah.
plastic that are
Yes.
flying around at like 15,000 miles per hour, and you're trying to like use the space for other things, and it like
Mm-hmm.
becomes progressively
Worse.
more
Exactly.
dangerous, and like stuff just like breaks and gets destroyed as you keep adding more trash up there.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
here's a good article. I'm gonna put this in the link in the chat here, so you can put that on
Hmm.
there because people don't think about this and shit. Like Elon Musk, oh, let's Mars, let's go to Mars, right? It's already getting so bad. It is really hard to plan launches into space now. It's getting harder and harder because it's getting crowded, right? It's already getting too crowded, right? And where's it at here? There are currently 7,700 satellites within just a couple of hundred miles of the Earth, right? They
Hmm.
say by 2027, it's going to grow to several hundred thousand satellites, right? Some of those are going to crash. Some of those are going to break, and it makes an insane field of space junk. Just trash and things around there. It goes
Hmm.
around. Eventually, people want to go out into space, maybe leave, maybe have the option. How about that? Just having the option to leave. Okay. I don't know. Let's just say one of those fucking Armageddon type movies come true and hey, we have a way of getting off this rock. Let's go. Well, can't. Sorry. We decided to let SpaceX put a whole bunch more satellites up there. I mean, they need to stop it. You know what I mean? Oh god. It's so bad though. The trash is out there. There's clouds, right? Yeah. It's
The low orbit satellites also um, mess with like astronomers trying to do astronomy
mm-hmm.
stuff because they're so much more in the way.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, it's a whole problem. It's like it's not the thing that like Starlink does. Starlink does satellite internet. The FAA needs it to be fiber based. Like it needs it to be ground based in data centers. That's not what they do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it seems like a really big like conflict of interest where they're like cutting out a competitor, in a like sort of like adjacent telecoms industry, so that they can take on some, be even more central to the infrastructure of the country in this other big way. And this is Elon when they were saying like, oh, if it's a conflict of interest, he wouldn't want no conflict. You're a conflict. I don't want any conflict. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's just like, oh, he'll totally just step aside if it's a conflict of interest. But like, meanwhile, he's firing the head of the FAA and then like, going after the deals, giving them to his company, even when his company doesn't do the thing that the deal required the other set of companies to do. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Which segues, so we kind of like skipped over it. We talked about it before we started, but which we can circle back to Doge eating shit and how all their savings are lies.
Okay. Well,
So there's a
hey,
really good, yeah, what?
before we start, I just want to make a Excel document real fast and put some
Yeah.
numbers in some columns, and I want to put it out there on Twitter and just say that look, I have 3 cells of numbers, and it goes down 25 rows, and look, I just saved the government $55 billion, and I'm gonna get credit for it
Wow. Okay.
because
Bet.
it seems like that's all they're doing lately
I
is just
think I think that's how it
making.
works.
Yeah, that does seem to be what they're doing
I
because
think you nailed it.
yeah, but you
Also, I
keep
don't
trying.
think we talked about how like 20 of them resigned recently because they were like, we signed up to like audit the federal government, not dismantle it. This isn't what we signed up for. We're out of here. And then they had to name so like yeah, also related. So they had to name an administrator. Like these federal judges kept being like, who's the administrator? Who's in charge? Who's running Doge? Because it couldn't be Elon Musk because he has all these contracts with the government, so he's not allowed to be a part of a government agency and have contracts with the government. And then as like a whatever his thing is, his title is like a special advisor to the president, like a special advisor to the president for whatever a whole bunch of reasons. Like they can't run a government agency, like you can't do both of those at the same time. So as a special advisor to the president, he can't run an agency. So they had to say who's the administrator, and they picked this woman like I can't remember what her name is, but just like some woman who works from home in like Tennessee. Like she's not at CPAC, she's not, but like allegedly this is the person like calling all the shots at Doge. Is just this like random ass woman uh in like bumblefuck nowhere Tennessee. the official administrator of Doge. And I should Google it just so I can have some facts.
Yeah. Well, if you want to go through some of their other stuff,
Amy Gleason.
Okay.
Yeah. So Amy Gleason is apparently the Doge administrator. But yeah. So the other thing, the spending stuff. I'm gonna crib from a MSNBC Rachel Maddow video from memory, and then I'll post a link to it. But she was saying how like Doge came out and said that they had found this cost of excuse me, okay, this cost of $655 million, and they found three of them. And they're like, oh, this is the savings we're going to do. We're going to save 1.95 billion dollars with these three big things. And then a few days later, they came out and they were like, actually, that wasn't three things that were $655 million each. It was just one thing that was $655 million. Our bad. So only one third of that. Then a little bit later, they came out and they're like, actually, so it's not $655 million. It's actually only worth 18. Contracts are complicated. We just like
math is hard.
skimmed it, and like so like we don't know what the fuck we're doing. So like it's only actually $18 million. There was another thing that was like $500 million that they posted, and then they completely had to retract it because like, oh, actually no, like that wasn't actually money being spent. That was like money that like could potentially be spent. And there's a whole bunch of things like that. There's like a bunch of things where they're canceling contracts, where there's like a provision in there that this contract could go up to some amount if it needed to, but that it never actually does, and like that's not the intent. Like, it's just like it's like we're setting aside money, like we're doing this thing in case we need more money to continue doing this thing, or like some emergency happens. We've set aside more money because we're being responsible, so we can pay it ahead of time. And then they're looking at like, oh, this is the amount that thought they were going to do. Like, we're giving this guy all this money. Like, no, you're not actually giving this guy this money. You just set it aside so you could spend it on this if you needed to, but you don't need to. And if you look at it every year, you realize that like you never do. You're just leaving it sat there in case shit. So there's a whole bunch of things like that. So like all these savings that they're talking about, this like they're saying that it's like $56 billion, but most of it's bullshit.
Yeah.
And like what they have actually done is just like cut off funding to
Yeah.
legitimate things, to like money that was actually appropriated, because there's
Yeah.
multiple like
They have not found one example yet of waste, fraud, and abuse. It is simply they've cut off funding to things. They've just turned off the access to the funds that were appropriated by Congress. They just turned it off. Said, "Hey, look, we just saved money. There you go." It's like if you just walked into a company that you don't work for, and you walked in there and you said, "Oh, hey, are your employees' paychecks here?" Yes. And then you went and you took the employees' paychecks and you set it on fire, the whole envelope with all the employees' paychecks. You said, I just saved you fuckers $20,000. Woo! That's
small
exactly what's
company.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. They haven't saved anything. They just cut off funding for things.
And fired a bunch of people.
And yeah.
They fired 7,000 people who work for the National Park Service. Like,
well, yeah,
of
they want to
all
drill, baby drill, man. What park rangers? What the fuck? We want to chop those trees down, bitch.
like the park rangers, you can't drill on national parks.
No,
First of all,
yes, you
like
can. What do you think Anwar is? What do you think they did in the first day of office? They opened it all up.
what are you talking
Everything.
about?
Day one. It's executive orders, man. Like Anwar, gone.
What's Anwar?
At Alaskan National Wildlife Refuge.
That's not a national park. That's a wildlife refuge. You
Well,
can't. You
Anwar.
cannot. You cannot like build or
But they did this.
drill or extract. You can't do any of that shit on national parks. You can't drill in a national park. But also, we're drilling more oil than any other country in the history of the
The world.
world as of last year.
Oh, it
And we
is. It is a
broke the
national park.
record that we set a few months before that, which broke the record that we set a few months before that under Biden.
It
Like
is. It is,
we're
by the
like
way, a
drill
national
baby
park.
drill. We're already fucking drilling. We're drilling the most drilling that has ever been drilled ever.
Yeah.
So like, what the fuck? You don't need to like go into the national, but you don't need to fire the guys who are like fixing the trails and like cleaning out the fucking restrooms. Like, unbelievable. It's it's just like that's not where the savings are. Like that was money well spent. It's the same shit as like the fucking Bureau of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, whatever it was, where they took their $750 million that they've already returned billions of dollars in litigation that they've done on behalf of, like, they make money. This is like the IRS. Like they're like cutting people from the IRS. Like last week we were talking about the Trump supporter who was working for the IRS. I think this is in the archived episode, but like we were talking about this IRS guy who was a Trump
National
supporter,
Martin.
and he got fired from the IRS. He's like, "Oh, I'm so surprised. Like, I went there to do a good job and serve the country and blah blah blah, and like they're firing me, and like I've only had good performance reviews, and they fired a ton of people from the IRS. But every dollar you spend at the IRS makes you more money than it costs.
Mm-hmm.
Like cutting
Yep.
people from the IRS cutting is the same as like cutting inspectors general. It just removes oversight. It's not how you find fraud. You're firing the people who find the fraud.
Yeah.
It's frustrating bullshit.
Sorry, I'm remembering on here because it's a
That's
good
fine.
good article. No, it's good. It's just really long. You'd have to read it a little bit more. But
Which
they are
which one are you looking at?
definitely. I just it's a long thing from the Guardian, but it's a really long thing about how they've taken a meat cleaver basically to national parks and wildlife refuges and all the permits they did and how they we took us out of Paris, the corridor thing,
Mm,
and they're showing all the other stuff and all the people they've installed, for like Interior Secretary, all the different places, and then around Carlsbad, for oil and drilling, all the leases they're beginning the Bureau of Land Management. 2 points. I mean, it's all the different areas where they're taking the public lands and just giving it away to oil and gas companies. Killing all
I
the
see.
animals, chopping down the trees, gone in the
Okay, this
forest.
is an epic article.
Yeah, it's really long, but yeah,
Uh,
it's yeah. They want to open up 90% of all public lands to oil and gas leasing.
like we just
Public lands is a good way of saying national parks and refuges, and what I mean, yeah.
like here's the thing. Like we don't need it.
No, we don't. Yeah, they were joking about uh,
Like
sorry.
here's I think like the real value of oil at this point. Okay, if we have a bunch of oil, we can um, we can hurt the Middle East by flooding the market with cheaper oil and cheaper natural gas, driving down the price of it so that their pile of resources makes less money. And they know that's what's going to happen. They know that like the amount of oil, like the oil business is like going away, which is why they have the Saudi sovereign wealth fund, which they use to like
Get off oil.
basically get off oil. They're like,
Yeah,
let's invest in all of these other businesses because oil isn't the future.
kind of
So
like
like
China. Yeah,
like the biggest thing that you can do with a bunch of oil is like make it cheaper and like devalue the oil that other places have. And I guess like you can make a bunch of people rich in the meantime, but like at a cost that's like so unnecessary. Like we have so much oil already.
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
topics we have not yet covered. Okay, we still have the Ukraine medical deal. We have,
Mineral,
what did I say?
medical.
Yeah, I definitely meant mineral.
Yeah.
Good call. We have Macron correcting Trump. We have Mitch fucking McConnell retiring. Um, I think those. Oh, we kind of touched on the town halls and the burning of the Trump flags. I can't remember if we talked about that, but those are okay. So which one? What do you want to do? Why don't you take McConnell and talk about the many fuckeries of Mitch McConnell for a little bit.
Oh God, really? Okay, Mitch McConnell, the turtle. Uh, I mean, here,
He's such a turtle.
what do you need to know about Mitch McConnell? He was,
Supreme Court justices, court packing.
Well, it's going to get there. I mean, he started off in the 80s. He started off as a senator from 1985, longest serving senator in Kentucky history, right? Um, Used to be considered a pragmatist and moderate long time ago, in the days of Ronald Reagan, you know. Um, of course, as he lived the Senate life long, I mean, and learned the ways that, to get things done and got more in power and then became majority leader for a long time. Um, yeah, I mean, he became probably one of the fucking dirtiest, most ruthless, you know, people to be a majority leader.
Yeah, don't forget the word effective.
Well, yeah, very effective. Effective, yeah, sure.
I,
Um,
I would even say Mitch McConnell is exactly what I want from a Democrat.
yeah, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I think he was one of the people that really made Republican Party really just blow up the filibuster and use the filibuster like to high heaven. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, Under Mitch McConnell, nothing could get done with less than 60 votes. I mean, it's gone back so long now that people shit. I think people don't even realize anything. And God, we need civics. We need a little basic civics lesson here, people. It used to be majority rules, majority vote, right? Majority, that doesn't matter in the Senate because you need 60 votes because a long time ago and these movies like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, you see the filibuster. Somebody is sitting up there talking and talking and talking forever so they can't vote on it, right? Because they mean something. No, that changed a long time ago. And Mitch McConnell was one of the architects of making sure the filibuster was just said, we filibuster. You know what I mean? We're going to filibuster this. They don't even have to do it. They just say they're going to, and then they just move on. Oh, we need 60 votes. So then they hold a vote called cloture, right? To advance something past it, to break a filibuster. So you always need 60 votes to get anything done in the Senate, which is just under 2/3,
But the
almost the
crucial
level you need for an impeaching a president. That's about how much you need in the Senate to have a majority to get things done, unless it's not controversial and you can get bipartisanship,
or reconciliation. But
or reconciliation. Yes.
the key thing about the filibuster that I think we've lost, like more important than it being walking versus just like raising your hand and saying, yeah, I'm filibustering. 'Cause, like, it used to be, yes, like you're saying, you had to stand there and physically be talking. So like you have to just have someone tap you out so you could like pee and eat and like sleep and whatever, and then like
Hmm.
come back and you can keep reading the phone book because you had to keep talking, saying new things the entire time.
Yeah.
Um, and this would be like to delay a vote on something. But when they switched it, so like the key thing there was that nothing else could happen. No other, they
Yes.
couldn't vote on
Exactly.
something else. They
Yep. You
couldn't
couldn't
like
move on.
confirm judges. They couldn't do a budget. They couldn't do shit else.
But
Okay,
McConnell's
like
filibusters
the
changed all
whole
that.
thing ground to the halt. Yes, and McConnell's the big change. So like, yeah, they switched it from like walking to now you just say like, oh, I'm filibustering. LOL. I'm not going to have to stand here. I'm just going to say I'm filibustering.
Yep.
And now you have to have 60 votes to break my filibuster and make this something we can actually vote on. So
Yeah.
they don't even have to, so I don't even have to come out and like look bad for no,
Yep.
I'm not going to vote for the like don't rape babies act. Like I'm a monster. Of course I'm not going to vote
And
for that.
and one other thing is like a good it says a little article about him. It says like political scientist Hacker and Pearson described the rationale behind McConnell's filibusters because he had his filibusters left no fingerprints. If voters heard that legislation had been defeated, right, journalists rarely highlighted that the defendant that a minority had blocked a majority, right? They just say, oh, something didn't pass, something didn't pass, right? A filibuster when they do their filibusters, they don't have to have a person being the target of all the ire. You know what I mean? Like if you actually had Rand Paul have to stand up there and actually filibuster and talk about why these sick kids with cancer shouldn't get any funding, right? You
Mm-hmm.
make him die on that hill, right? Make him
Yep.
speak about that. He would look really bad, and you wouldn't have people thinking, "Wow, he's a good conservative," right? You think, "What? He's an
Mm-hmm.
asshole," right? What?
Yeah.
That's this is the guy holding it up for that. But when they do their filibuster, they say, "Oh no, we're filibustering." Oh, they couldn't get 60 votes. Yep, that's going down in flames, and that's it.
But
No
the
individual
other thing is like
person is
you
blamed.
have to vote on it. Like you have to vote on it or stand there. Like those are the only two options. Otherwise, nothing else can happen in the Senate. So like
That's the way it used to be. But they
that's
would
the way
just,
it used to be. Like
yeah, they
that
just
was such a huge piece. Like
here's
now that
that.
you can just like put it to the
Mm-hmm.
side and like do everything else, it's
Else,
like
yeah.
it's so much less toothless. It's just like raising the
It's just
standard
raising
to
the.
do
It's just
anything to
yeah, just
60
raising
votes.
the. Yeah, it's just raising it to. It's not a majority rule anymore. It's a 60 vote rule. You
Yeah.
know. So yeah,
Hmm.
and he really did coin that, man. That's so under the Obama years, they filibustered fuck everything, like fucking everything. Everything was filibustered, you know. And so then 2013, Harry Reid got in there, majority leader Harry Reid's like, hey, you know what? For presidential nominations, except for the Supreme Court, we'll go ahead and well, the rules. They always have a rules at the beginning of any legislature,
Yeah,
They
they set
revoke
the
the
rules about the
rules.
filibuster every time.
Yeah, they set the rules for everything, right? And they changed the rules, tweaked the rules, said, okay, you can't filibuster this, you can't filibuster that, right? And they said, okay, you can't filibuster nominations to the bench, except for the Supreme Court, because that's such a big thing, you know.
Hmm.
And and then of course McConnell, said, yeah, or cool, we'll just, you know what, we'll go ahead and eliminate the filibuster for the Supreme Court, you know. That way they could get Neil Gorsuch on there, Then this is after. God, that was Neil Gorsuch, but that was after they didn't have to use a filibuster. They just hit the majority. They just would not allow there to be a, uh, a hearing, debate, confirmation hearings for Merrick Garland,
Yeah,
for the Supreme Court.
and like
Which he was a
Merrick Garland wasn't even who. Like Merrick Garland wasn't even a good
no,
choice.
no. The funny thing is, the only
He was
reason
their
he
choice.
no, yeah, he because Mitch McConnell, right, said Obama's not serious about he's not really serious about putting up a liberal judge. If he was really serious about getting a judge confirmed, he'd put up Merrick Garland. And so he's like, you know what, Merrick Garland, he is fucking down the middle, milk toast, middle of the road guy. And even Mitch McConnell himself said if he was serious about getting a judge on there, he'd put up Merrick Garland. Yeah, Merrick Garland. There you go, bipartisanship, man. Let's go, Merrick Garland. And then they said, no, that never happened.
Yeah, they refused to let him vote, which like
And
really came back to like he double fucked us on that because then
and
they
two
put
weeks and
Merrick
2 weeks.
Garland in charge of the.
Yeah, he would have
They
been a
made
good
him
Supreme Court
AG.
justice. I think he would have been a good Supreme Court justice. He was a shitty attorney general. But anyway,
Yeah.
and then of course Mitch McConnell talked about how it's he he died. When Scalia died. Scalia died. This is the year of an election. There was like a year left
Hmm.
before the election when
Yeah.
Scalia died, and they held it up. And then of course when RGB died 2 weeks before the election, after Trump had already lost,
It was less than 2 weeks. It was like eight
ran
days.
her through.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was after the election, 2 weeks before
And they had
Biden would
lost. So
take
the
power.
voters already made
And
their
he
choice.
lost. So the
Yeah.
voters had already made their choice. They made such a big deal of like, oh, the voters have to decide. The voters have to
Yep.
decide. Like, no. And like
Ran that shit through.
this is the thing that I like love and hate about Mitch McConnell. I hate it because only he does it, and our side is like, oh, well, we have to do our morals. Everyone, we got to eat our vegetables and be real nice. Otherwise, the win doesn't count. Like, no, fuck that. When you have an advantage, fuck them with it every time. That's just the thing I love about Mitch McConnell. Like he was a vicious, ruthless, scrupulous fucking pit fighter who would throw dirt in your eyes and like stab a baby so he could win the fight. Like he did not give a fuck. Whatever it
Yep.
took, that's what he was going to do. And
Yep.
that's what we need. And that's the thing that I most hate about the Democrats is that like they're all just fucking pussies. Nobody will get out there and fucking do whatever it takes. Like there's no victory at all cost. It's like we would rather lose but like stick to our values and
Morals.
just
Yeah.
like yeah
Well,
we
but at the
we
same
rather
time,
like
though,
our
at
values
the same
rather
time,
than
though, man, that's
victory.
what makes most of us Democrats. Most of us Democrats actually have principles.
Dude, I don't give a fuck about principles. I
Ugh.
want I want I want clean water. Okay? I want women to be able to make decisions about their bodies with their doctors. I want healthcare and education to not be things that are so ridiculously expensive. And I want the wealth, like the wealth, the treasure as the result of the labor and productivity and innovation of this country to be more evenly spread around it. That's it. That's not radical. That's not
Mhm.
crazy. Like it's really just like the basic stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like if you have to like stab a few babies and like get cheat at some elections and like whatever the fuck else, I don't care. I don't care at all.
Yeah.
If you gotta run like a horrible fucking person because they're the only one that can win, I don't give a fuck. If you gotta lie to the poor people who are too dumb to fucking, know the difference between Obamacare and the ACA, which one's helping them,
Hmm.
like fuck them. Do what you gotta do because if you don't have any power, your morals mean shit.
I will say this though, in McConnell's praise, right? Even though publicly he would say whatever, right? Like, oh, the voters have to decide. And private, but like, and then they would just do it anyway, right? When they had the chance, with RGB when she died, privately, right? And like even Biden said it, right? Biden even said, he described McConnell as a friend, a colleague, and a man of his word. Even though, like you said, it's like, hey, whatever it fucking takes. If you used some very colorful language before about taking your junk out and just shoving, what I mean, giving it to
Yes,
the other
I
party,
remember. I remember
right?
that speech. I
So like
made that
you talk
speech.
about doing that, he would do that. But like when they were talking privately and amongst each other and colleagues, he would be pretty explicit about what they were going to do. Hey, we're gonna do this for you. We're gonna do this to you, and he would just do it. But if he made a deal with you, he stuck to it. Unlike a lot of the Republicans, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like that was one of the things that like Kevin McCarthy in the House. That's why the Democrats let him go down. You know what I mean? And let the Republicans go out there, and like six Republicans saying, "Oh, we want to take out Kevin McCarthy." He had no love in there because he was a snake. He would make deals with Democrats and then just not do it. Mitch McConnell, if he made a deal with you, he made a bipartisan deal, and he said, "Hey, we got this bill. We're gonna do this. Blah blah blah. We'll do this and this." He stuck to it, and he made sure you get the votes for it. You know,
Mhm.
so and he was the only Republican to attend the funeral of Beau Biden's son or of Beau Biden. You know,
Hmm.
so you know,
Pros and
and he
cons.
was one of the only Republicans to vote against some of this other horrible Trump shit. He was the one to vote against a few of Trump's nominations. He was like the sole Republican to vote against
Uh,
somebody in it. Sad. It's sad when Mitch McConnell is the lone Republican to vote against completely unqualified Trump appointees. It's a crazy world we're living in the Senate.
I mean, I initially had that same thought, like, wow, Mitch McConnell's the
Yeah,
lone holdout. But
he
then I
voted
was
against
listening to
Pete
the
Hegseth. He
Bulwark, and
voted
they're
against
like,
Tulsi. He voted against RFK. He voted against all three of the worst.
yeah, but here's the thing. Okay, so like they were talking about this on the Bulwark. They were like, look, all these Republicans, they like retire and then like suddenly they like get to Bill Maher's show and now they're finally a good guy, or they're sitting on the podcast couch and like now they've like have their fucking come to Jesus moment when it doesn't fucking matter. And Mitch McConnell is the same thing. Like they could afford to lose 3 votes on all of those votes. So like it didn't fucking
Mm-hmm.
matter. He didn't show up to like to be a man of his principles when it fucking mattered. He showed up when it didn't fucking matter.
Yeah, that's true.
Like right before, like on his way out the door, like, oh yes, I'll be a good guy here at the end of my turtle days. Like
Yeah.
no, like that's not, you don't get points for that, bro. Like I guess like if any of these confirmations had like not gone off because Mitch McConnell, like McCain did saving the ACA, if he had that moment, then like okay, then I'll give it to you. Like he accomplished something, even like at the last minute. Like in large part, the system right now is broken because of Mitch McConnell and his like 40-year mission to pack the courts.
Yeah. Hmm.
What a
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying anything really nice about him. Just I'm not saying he had morals or principles, but apparently he would be true to his word. When talking to people. So I mean,
Honestly, I think he's a RBG level icon. I don't care that he's played for the other side. It's like being a, I don't know sports well enough to do this analogy. It's like whoever the rival of the Patriots is, like you still admire Tom Brady. Like, like yeah, he fucked us every time, but like,
man, he would,
he
and he
played he
would.
played the game super
That is a
good.
perfect analogy. Mitch McConnell, Tom Brady. Hey, do whatever it takes. Deflate those fucking balls.
Yeah,
Just get it done.
yeah. Like I'm saying, like I
Deflate
feel
game.
like
Yeah.
he is showing the way for like that's the Democrat I want. Like,
Yeah.
I would vote for
But you know
Bernie,
what though? Nancy
if
Pelosi
Bernie can
was
get
that
the
person.
popularity, but like,
Nancy Pelosi was that. She was that person. Nancy Pelosi was the Mitch McConnell. I mean, on the other side, she was the smart one who got shit done. She'd whip her votes. She'd get her stuff done. Smart. You may not like all of her stuff or whatever, or think hey, insider trading or whatever and stuff like that. But
that's the first thing that comes to mind when I
I
think about
know, and
Nancy
that's
Pelosi.
the
I'm just like, oh,
and
all the insider trading,
yeah,
those COVID deals sure are lucrative when you
no,
know
but she
what the.
got a lot of amazing shit done, man. She was fucking amazing. You know what I mean? Affordable Care Act, American Rescue Plan. She led for 20 years. I mean, shit. Yeah.
How do you feel about age limits or term limits or some kind of like, why the fuck are all these people? There's this one Republican woman who's like the head of a committee and she like doesn't even know where she is because she has such
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
like
No,
late
it's
stage
dementia.
Parkinson's,
Yeah. Yeah.
dementia or whatever. Yeah, like
Here's the thing. I think it's two. You can't have one without the other. I think. First of all, term limits. I think term limits are stupid. I do. I think term limits are stupid as long as you have free and fair elections. And I think if you have free and equal public financing for elections, then I think it's fine. If you can't just get Elon Musk to do whatever $300 million here, and let me just do this. Let me just have the largest media, like thing here, to echo chamber to shut down everybody who says bad things, and just if you got rid of all that, if you made the level, if you made a level playing field, right, for elections, who gives a shit about term limits? You know, don't let one person just do whatever they want and have money to do whatever they want, and another person be like, oh shit, I can get together a few $100,000 to fund my race. Meanwhile, ExxonMobil and Shell are going to go up and fund somebody against me and do all this other stuff. I mean, if you had a level playing field, it's fine. Unlimited. I don't care about term limits. Let people vote. I mean,
yeah, but
FDR, I think there's a reason why FDR was elected 4 times. The only reason they got term limits on presidents is because Republicans eventually, after forever when goes by, they finally retook some power in the House and Senate, and they're like, all right, we got to stop this fucking guy from running every time. He's always going to win. He's too popular. God, he saved the country. He saved in the war. Jesus, stop it. Term limits. And that's why we had term limits, because he was too good, and he would have kept on getting elected. So I'm not a fan of term limits. But like I said, again,
but
free
it's
and fair
like
elections and equal playing field. I don't like the idea of Trump being able to just run forever and with all of his fingers on the powers of levers of government and being able to do everything he's doing now, and the Supreme Court giving him a blank check of if it's an official act, he can do whatever the fuck he wants. You know what I mean? Because I
mhm.
don't think that will lead to free and fair elections. But yeah. But yeah, Nancy
But
Pelosi was awesome.
isn't that like, like if only we like save the world, then, dinner would be delicious and healthy every day? Like, you know what I mean? Like you're like, well, if we can accomplish the much larger task, then the small like term limits are necessary because we don't live in a world where campaign finance is a bell we can unring, where like Citizens United is a bell we can unring. Like, yeah, that would be the ideal situation. Like, let's get ranked choice, let's get like top five, let's get, take all the money out of politics. Let's be like, if you contributed more than $1,000 to someone, you can't contribute to the same person again for 4 election cycles. Sure, let's do all of those things. But that's in a perfect world, and we're a million fucking light years away from any of that, let alone all of it. So like in the meantime, in the real world where we actually live in, what we shouldn't do is have fucking 90-year-olds running everything because incumbents get reelected 90% of the time. So like like it's like you gotta deal with the problem that's killing you now before you can like we got to deal with the fact that like my foot has cancer. By chopping off my foot, I can't just like wait until we cure all cancer and just like hope I don't die before then. We got to chop the foot off now. We need to get the fucking like 70 plus, get the fuck out. Like
Yeah, but
you're
that's
tired,
also not going to
you're
happen
done.
though.
Go
I
go
think
go
the
to a
real
beach, go play golf.
yeah, but here's another thing, Gabe. You said, "Oh, well, that's not realistic, though. That's not realistic. Getting that out of there, toothpaste is out of the tube or whatever, right?" You said, it's already there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're already there where these people who know they have a 90%, re-election rate, you
Would have
have
to
to
be the
get
ones
those
to do it.
people to say, yeah, I want to make a bill that says we can never have this position of power again. It's already gone. It's already there,
You got to put them. You just got to. It's just a question of incentive. You got to put them up against a wall where the opposing choice is worse.
Oh, so you're in other words like Donald Trump, what he wants to do. Put the bill against a wall. Like Liz Cheney, didn't he say he made some alludings to things, putting Liz
Yeah.
Cheney up to a wall and putting a gun to her head?
That's another story from this week. The way we didn't get into, but like Liz Cheney hired a law firm, and in retaliation, the Trump administration took away um, the security clearances, the classified clearance from all of the lawyers at that law firm that could handle classified documents. So now they can't practice that kind of law because they represented Liz Cheney. And they said that they're going to keep doing it, that it's like punitive. And so like it's not a big deal because like somebody will like there's an incentive there. Like right, there's like a level of prestige and publicity for representing Liz Cheney, and Liz Cheney has money. So, so she can take that fight and the law firm will help her. But when it's like, Joe fucking nobody who's an FBI agent who was investigating the first time J6, or not J6, but the first Russiagate stuff with Trump, when he goes after that guy isn't going to get a law firm to like, lose a big portion of their business for some fucking nobody FBI agent to represent him. That guy's
Mhm.
not going to be able to get good representation if he can get any representation when the government is going to like retaliate against that law firm in
Yeah.
that way. Like
Yeah.
it's super corrupt.
Well, that's synonymous with the word Trump. So super corrupt.
Super corrupt.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
let's end on a positive note. And here's my pitch for the positive note. Okay. I was watching Raging Moderates with Scott Galloway, and I really need to memorize the woman because she's on Fox and she's like the voice of reason on Fox News. She's really great. She's also on Raging Moderates. But anyway, Scott had this thing where he's like I'm doing this thing where I'm like, what could go right? Not what could go wrong, what could go right? So this is my question to you is like, what is one thing in the next however long that could go right?
Trump could choke on a Big Mac.
You're not. I agree. That would be great. That is something that could go right, and then we'd have JD Vance.
Well,
Which
there's okay. There's shit.
downside?
I
Got an
don't
upside.
see anything going right until possibly midterm elections. Possibly, right? Otherwise, I just think things getting worse, 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 worse up until then. So, wait, what can go right? We can have midterms, and maybe we take back. Actually, there's a special election right now that could actually flip the House. There's a couple special elections right now. That's what can go right.
Oh,
There's three special elections, aren't there, in the
I
House?
thought that they were all going to be for places that Republicans were going to win.
Here we go. There's let's take a look. Take a look.
I didn't
Shit,
realize it
shit,
was
shit,
had
shit,
the
shit, shit.
potential to flip. Wait,
A
you look
few
that
days
up
ago,
and
Democrat reelected to Maine special election. God, I wish I had the Democrats hold a House seat. GOP keeps the Senate, but there's another one. There's a couple other ones, like a couple more seats here that could technically flip. And if they did flip, Democrats could get it, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't see anything good happening in the short term. Um, Nothing good, but there was some positive things. One of the judges, actually, the Supreme Court, not one of the judges, the U.S. Supreme Court did not give Donald Trump a win, um, because they were trying to appeal the TROs. You know how people have been blocking Doge? Courts have been saying, hey, Doge can't do this. No, no, temporary restraining order. Doge can't do this. Doge can't do this. Government, no, the Trump administration cannot do this. You cannot fire these people. It was about, I think, a few thousand people who got fired, and they got a TRO. And the court said, no, you are not allowed to fire these thousands of people like this. That's not the law. Emergency temporary restraining order. Government is not allowed to do this. And Trump went to appeal the temporary restraining order to the U.S. Supreme Court, and the U.S. Supreme Court refused to hear it, meaning they said when they refused to hear it that TROs are not appealable. So they kept it in place. And Jesus Christ, the Supreme Court finds a way to give Trump a win. So I was kind of surprised that they did not take up that case and say, yeah, this one lone judge can't stop the whole federal government, which is actually the exact reason why they have the federal courts. It is to stop the federal government from doing things. But
Yeah,
yeah, but the Supreme Court
literally.
did not take that power away from the lower judges, and lower judges are having to get more broad with their TROs and their halts on things because of how much damage the administration is trying to do so fast, so widespread, so wide scale. So
Mm.
that's good. Judges can still somewhat be a bulwark against some of the worst. That's about the best I have.
Okay, Supreme Court. What could go right? My what could go right is about the war in Ukraine. And what I think could go right is an extension of some things that have already been going right, which is
Europe.
Ukraine hit um, Ukraine hit some really good targets in Russia. So they hit some oil refinery places,
Everyday thing. Yeah.
which slows down the war machine. They hit some mineral refining manufacturing places that make some of the chemicals and the stuff they need to be able to make their bombs. Um, that's a big deal. And then I guess the other thing is just like the support from Europe could come through and kind of nullify the Putin's balls dangling on Trump's fucking orange piece of shit chin. Um, so that's what could go right. What could go right is Europe stepping up and helping Ukraine, and Ukraine bombing the fuck out of Russia.
And
That's my what could go
that
right.
was one of the only things I was thinking about going right because Europe is kind of stepping up and saying, "Hey, America's fucking hopeless now with Trump at the helm. Let's
Yeah,
stick
well, I mean,
together."
to Trump's credit, like
To
they
Trump's
don't
credit,
have an ocean between them and Russia, so they do have a, I don't know. Would you like to continue your way of life incentive? Yeah, to like stack up.
yeah,
So
and they've been doing good, man. This last month or two has been pretty. I mean, nothing has been great for Ukraine. Obviously, they're fighting a war for their survival on their own
mhm.
territory, being invaded. That being said, like after Republicans cut off Ukraine for like 3 months straight, and they finally had to lose Avdiivka, right? Russia started moving, just kept on creeping, creeping, creeping. But now, I mean, they got stopped, right? They got stopped, and Ukraine's been doing good counterattacks. That those lines haven't really changed. Now, I mean, they haven't. They never were huge changes, but Ukraine is inflicting massive casualties on them, and they've been counterattacking and pushing them back in recent weeks now.
Do you think that
Slowly.
like Russia's less concerned with pushing now that they have Trump to kind of apply pressure from the other side?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They wanted. Russia really does want to cease fire. They don't want to end the war. They would love. Well, they want to pause. Like they were talking about like Russian estimates. They were talking about like there was some data that came out, and Russian estimates, which are usually really really high, you know, their estimates were they're only going to be able to mobilize about 100,000. Was it 100,000 people a month or something like that? This year,
Hmm.
which is way down from what they were doing, right? And or this is quarter or something like that. But their mobilization, they're predicting they're going to mobilize way less than they have been. They're losing way more people than they're mobilizing now. They're actually losing territory in the last like months. Maybe in the last couple months, like a month or two. You know, they're tapped out. Their oil's getting fucking. Their oil industry is in shambles. Their economy's in shambles. They need to stop fighting and regroup and rearm and everything else because it's at a point where if Ukraine just maintained the level of aid that they've been having, they would the tide would turn and they would be pushing Russia back.
Hmm.
You know, So Russia really doesn't want to stop it right now. Hey, let's freeze it. Hey, what we got? We got this, and then try to rearm everything else and try to surprise them later.
Mm-hmm.
Ukraine's they're on the upswing right now as far as the war goes. In part though, because in the last months before Biden left office, he like massively, hey, give Ukraine everything we possibly can now because we've had it on the books for a while, right? And just push it all forward. So they really got well armed. And it's amazing what they can do when they're armed. you know, you can beat a military way bigger than yourself. But if Europe steps up, I don't think it matters what Trump and Russia do unless Trump like starts feeding intel to Russia. Which I mean, you got Tulsi Gabbard and Pete Hegseth and himself. I mean, I wouldn't put that
I
past
think
him.
they're just going to stop giving the U.S.
Ukraine.
intel.
No, no, no. I'm talking about. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Trump starts giving intel to the Russians on Ukraine.
Well, yeah, no, me either. But
That
I
would
mean,
make it.
I think for that
That would fuck.
reason, the the European countries are going to stop sharing
Sure, they
information with
will.
the United
Yeah,
States.
sure, they will. But I mean, if we're using our intelligence assets to aid Russia, Ukraine's fucked. I don't care what Europe does. You know what I mean? If we actually help Russia, you know.
I don't know if information would be enough. I think we'd have to actually like put some force or some, if we started sanctioning
You
other
mean
countries,
dropping sanctions?
if we dropped sanctions on Russia, if we added
Yeah,
sanctions to Britain,
which I
you
could see
know,
that happening.
or Italy or
Yeah,
Germany or whatever. I guess like one
yeah.
of the things we didn't even talk about, which I don't think
Oh
we're gonna
yeah,
get to,
Germany
is
man actually
yeah,
said
is
Germany man actually
MERS.
just fucking called it out. They're like, yeah, we're not. They even said about the Russia and U.S. He said we're not seeing uh what is it like Munich thing, right? Like before Nazi Germany. He says what we're seeing is more like an alliance between the U.S. and Russia. That's how they described our Trump people talking to Russia. They see
Yeah.
it much more threatening. So yeah,
Yep.
maybe the world under in the book 1984 really does come to pass.
With the
U.S. on one side, Russia all through Europe and there, and then like China to the southeast, and everybody just fights over Africa.
Oh, let's hope not. 1984 doesn't begin well or end well for anyone. All right.
So anyway,
This has been What Can Go Right.
what can go right? 1984 might actually happen. It's not just a bestseller. It was a premonition.
Oh man.
Sorry, that's what's going right, man. 1984 is actually coming to fruition. Shit.
All right. Well, let's just hope that it's that Trump eats the wrong Big Mac and
Yeah.
kicks it.
Maybe RFK shares a snack with Trump. Maybe he gives him some, road bear.
Hey, I'm gonna give you before we sign off. Let me give you a homework. I'm gonna take the same homework. Here's the homework.
Find
Before
something
the
positive.
next before the next podcast, call your representatives and complain. Whether they're blue, whether they're red. Hey, why don't I hear your name? Why don't I see you protesting Elon Musk? Why aren't you like
Oh,
out there shouting about Medicaid?
you know what? There was a protest.
Just call your people and just add your voice as a little bit of pressure. Whether it's a voicemail, talk to a staffer. If they only accept email, do that. That's my challenge to you. I'm gonna do the same thing.
All right. By the way, I am very disappointed in protesters today. Sorry, I know we're gonna wrap this up. I gotta go anyway. We gotta wrap this up.
I'm trying,
Podcast
man. I'm
gotta
really
end.
trying.
But hey, if you're gonna protest people, don't. This is just FYI because of something stupid and funny that happened here. Don't hold a 1 hour protest. If you have to say we're protesting from 12 to 1 at the Valparaiso courthouse, come on, man. Don't give a time limit on it. Stay out there. Make it real.
No,
Anyway,
I mean, for sometimes the protests you have to get like a license. For
sorry.
real, like you have to like register if you're gonna have like if it's gonna be more than a certain size, and like when you give it like a start and end time, like that gives people an idea of like when they need to be there and how long they're gonna be there. It actually helps there to be more people.
All
I
right.
started when me and Katya were going to protests all the time. I started writing a protest pamphlet based on like just like compiling all the things that I saw that like worked really well and like what didn't. I should probably get back to revisiting that.
Yeah. All right. Well. All right.
All right, do your
I'm gonna.
challenge.
I'll
This
take
was
the
a good
challenge. Everybody, fan. Hey, fan.
fan.
Take the challenge, fan. Anybody
Hey
listening?
fan,
thanks,
do
thanks,
the
fan.
challenge. Call your reps, fan.
All right.
All right. Like, comment, and subscribe. Also, fan, share to one of your friends or family members. All right.
Fan,
Bye.
talk to your fam. All right.
Fan, talk to your fam.
All right.
All right.
Good night. Good luck. Maybe something positive next week.
Maybe.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
All right.